Good evening. This Town of Adams Board of Selectmen meeting, Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, is now in session. Please note that this meeting is being conducted remotely, and we are using Zoom as our platform. And you are now being recorded via Zoom, now that I've hit the record button. I just also want to advise people that pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Adams Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort has been made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A recording of this meeting is available for anyone who wishes, either by getting the Zoom recording, or we do have Northern Berkshire Community Television with us this evening, and they can also provide the recording. We are still going with the rule of 10 due to the square footage of this room that is in place. And I think I just need to let everybody know who is in the room. For those of you who are on the call, my name is Christine Hoyt. I am the chair of the Board of Selectmen. With me this evening are members John Duvall, Rick Blanchard, and Joe Novak. I also have with me the town administrator, Jay Green, legal counsel, Ed St. John III, Peter Gentile from Northern Berkshire Community Television, and we have three speakers with us, town clerk, a new business owner, Peter Leskowitz, and Chief Troy Bacon, and also our administrative assistant, Deb Dunlap. I will do my best for those of you who are on the call by video to show the rest of the room. For those of you who are on the call, you are on a large screen for everybody in this room to see you. And they will also help me if you put anything in chat or if somebody else calls in. I believe that is all of my housekeeping for the Zoom recording at this time. So I will ask everyone to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The first item of business on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the September 16th, 2020 Board of Selectmen meeting. What is the board's pleasure?
Can all of us vote?
I can't vote on it.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I usually state that. I apologize that. So, Thank you, Member Blanchard, for reminding me.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th, 2020, and to waive the reading of the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Duval. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Member Novak. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Roll call.
Aye. None of us are participating remotely,
Okay.
so we
Yep.
can all vote. But
Okay.
thank you for the reminder.
Yep.
So all in favor? It was
Yes.
aye. And one abstention?
Abstention.
Okay. Thank you. That brings us to public comment. Is there anybody who is on the call or in the room who wishes to speak to the board this evening under public comment? I will just give it a moment for anyone who has to unmute themselves. Okay. Hearing none, I will go ahead and close public comment. I will just ask that if you can mute yourselves, that would be helpful, because I am hearing some background noise, and then unmute yourselves when you wish to speak. So that brings us under new business. The first item under new business is the election of a vice chair for our board. I think as the members of this board are aware and the public is aware, Jim Bush was serving as vice chair of our board at the time of his passing, but we do need to select somebody to fill that seat for the remainder of this year. So at
Madam
this time, I will
Chairman,
take
I
some
would like
nominations.
to nominate Rick Blanchard to be the vice chair to take the place of our deceased esteemed member and friend, James Jim Bush.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Member Duval. Is there any discussion? Any discussion from you, Member Blanchard?
Wow. No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
You would like to abstain? Thank you for taking that on. So that brings us to the second item, the all-alcohol club change of manager application that is before us. Attorney Brennan is here with the applicant, Leah Cudworth. This is for the organization that we know as the Mountain Club at 6 Anthony Street in Adams, Massachusetts. In front of the Board of Selectmen is the paperwork for the change of manager. I forgot that there was somebody in the next room, so I apologize for my reaction for those of you at home.
It's Mr. Plunkett.
Yeah, it's like, I actually thought something hit the windows, given the weather out there today. So we do have that application in front of us. It is my understanding that our town council has reviewed the paperwork and giving us the go-ahead to go with tonight's meeting. Is there anything, Attorney St. John, that we need to be aware of? It seems to be pretty straightforward for a change of manager application.
Yeah, there was a hitch in it before because of the a particular person named as manager that the ABCC had advised us earlier as a result of a hearing that we had not to have that person involved in management. So that issue's been cleared up, and it seems to me to be fairly straightforward, and I certainly recommend it to you.
Great, and I will also mention that the licensing subcommittee met last week and also reviewed the paperwork before this evening. Attorney Brennan, I don't know if you wanted to introduce who's with you.
If I may, I would just state that the prior manager was Richard Zarnick, and Richard had passed. So we now have Leah Cudworth, who has volunteered to step forward to be the manager. She is tip certified, and certainly has the ability to manage the establishment, and she has the full support of the membership. So I would just respectfully request that we grant the change of manager and accept the application, and we can go forward from there.
Okay. Great. So I will entertain a motion to accept the change of manager application that is before us.
I'll make a motion to approve, that the board approve the change of manager application for, and I'm going to cheat here and say the Mountain Club, instead of trying to pronounce the actual name.
I know. Leah, can you give us an education on the name?
Yep, it's actually, it's the verb for Ryan. It's actually, I don't know the whole history on it, but I know it's German. I know it comes from back in the German ages. I was actually, about 15 years ago, I was the first woman to ever hold office in that club. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. But yeah, I guess they used to teach the English language there way back in the day, from what I understand.
All right. We struggle with the name of it every year for the annual licensing. So thank you for that. So I have a motion by Member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Member Duval. Is there any questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Or an abstention? That is unanimous. So that is all set. I will just let you know that licensing renewal season is about to commence, and so we'll see more paperwork from you soon.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. So that brings us to the next item, and it is an application for a common vic license to be issued to Peter Leskowitz of PJO Corporation, doing business as Miss Adams Diner. As we all know where it is, at 53 Park Street in Adams. And I wanted to maybe turn things over to Town Administrator Green, who's invited Peter Leskowitz to join us this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we all know, we've had a lot of attention paid to Park Street and some of our iconic businesses and landmarks, and I would suggest that Miss Adams is probably the most iconic property on Park Street. When Mr. Leskowitz reached out to me sometime in the summer, I believe early July, I was excited that Pete was interested in it, and we worked carefully with him through the process to ensure that he had whatever support the town could offer for him to do that, knowing what it meant to this community and our heritage and our commerce on Park Street. So I think I would join all of us here on the board to thank Pete for coming to Adams. He's been a pleasure to work with so far, and we look forward to him really bringing back to life this iconic diner.
Okay. So with that introduction,
Thank you.
hi. How's it going?
So far, so good. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, hopefully by the end of the month, we're hoping to be in full action. It's been a lot of cleaning and some gas and plumbing and electrical issues, but every day we're resolving more and more. So the point's getting there. I have a menu put together, just getting my list of vendors together, and hopefully open the doors very soon and be a part of the community.
So, popular question in town, what will the menu?
It's going to be basic diner food. What it was the building was originally intended to be a diner, and I just want to go back to the format of what it was intended to be.
Wonderful. I think that that'll be music to a lot of people's ears.
It'll be music to my ears, because it's all food that I would like to eat and I can't find anywhere.
Well,
As you can see, I like to eat.
I do too. So we do have the matter of the common vic license in front of us. So I will entertain a motion for approval of that license.
Make a motion, the board approve the common vicular license for Peter Leskowitz, PJO Corporation, doing business as Miss Adams Diner.
Okay, I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by member Novak. Any questions?
I just want to comment once again, thank you for having faith in the town of Adams, and I wish you the best of luck, and I feel that you'll do just fine.
Perfect, thank you very much.
And one other thing I'd like to say about it, and that's just my own personal opinion, I didn't like when they rocked the front of that building.
You know what, I don't like it either, but maybe one day later on down the road, maybe we can wrap it with some brushed aluminum or stainless steel.
Original.
Yes, I'll agree with you there. I've gotten a lot of comments about it, but that's a major
Down the road,
undertaking.
I understand that, yep.
But I'm totally behind you on that one. I feel the same exact way. It takes away for the integrity of what it was originally supposed to be. It just totally changed the game, the facade.
Yep.
And by the way, Pete, as a sitting city councilor, welcome back to the mother town.
Thank you.
I was leaving that one out.
You know, I thought I had 3 weeks off of meetings, well, we got one tonight. But actually, this one I can actually be an outside participant.
Yes. With hopefully less technical issues. So, any other questions or comments?
Is there an area for this diner for outdoor seating?
Yes.
I believe that the brickway to the left of the building is part of my footprint, so I hope
Yes.
in the next season to maybe put some picnic tables out there with some umbrellas, and probably just like I do on Eagle Street, I'll try to pretty it up with flowers. I mean, I try to be a good part of the downtown of North Adams, and I plan on doing the same thing here.
If you recall, Member Duval, we earned a $25,000 shared streets grant from Mass DOT. Other communities were able to use those funds for other purposes, traffic calming like you see in Pittsfield, et cetera. But one of the things that we realized that we could do is purchase some of those outdoor tables. So I believe the Community Development Department, I want to say either 6 or 8 4-person metal heavy tables with an umbrella that matches the color scheme that the Community Development Department had established for Armory Court, et cetera. We envision some of those going in between the grind down Armory Court, and we would envision probably 2 would be able to fit next to Miss Adam Steiner. So they've been ordered, so we will be able to get them in time for this year's outdoor dining season, but we would envision helping out the establishment that way.
Thanks.
Definitely lends to the appeal of downtown when you drive by.
Does.
Anything else? If not, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? That is unanimous.
Thank you very much for your time, and I very much look forward to being part of your community.
We look forward to having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. The next item appears to be an annual item, or every couple of months, I think, at this point, but it's an application for placement of a temporary sign on a public way. It is for the Vote for Susan signs. Ginny Duval has put forward the paperwork asking to place the Vote for Susan signs on various town properties from October 24th through November 4th. In the past, the board has approved this for the multiple locations, as I think in coordination with the town administrator's office is typically how this has been handled. But what is the board's pleasure with this?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to okay the placement of temporary signs on public ways for the Vote for Susan, done by Virginia Duval for the dates on town property between October 24th, 2020 to November 4th, 2020.
I'll second.
And a second by Member Blanchard. And I would just state that it should be in coordination with the town administrator's office, just to make sure that the town locations are approved, or are appropriate, I should say. Any further discussion on that? Oh, Member Blanchard?
Yeah, it says multiple locations. Any idea on how many signs we talking? Or?
I don't. Deb, did Ginny state how many signs when she put forward the paperwork?
She did not.
Okay.
I will work with her on that.
Okay. I think it's been less than 6 in the past. I think it's like 4. I think she picks a couple of different locations, but it's always been in coordination.
She's always done an excellent job. They always look professional. They're removed promptly after the expiration ends, so we have no issues.
Does that answer your question, or do you have?
It was a curiosity. It was not a game changer. I was
Okay.
just wondering how many were going to be popping up.
If there's no other questions or discussion.
I have
I'm
a
sorry.
comment. I'd like to thank once again Virginia for doing this for the community. And also, there's a way that you can get a sign that says Susan couldn't vote, but you can. They can be found along with buttons at McAndrews Insurance Company during their working hours, and they can also be purchased at the Susan B. Anthony Museum Friday through Sunday. It'd be best if you could perhaps call ahead of time at the museum for that, and the cost of lawn sign is $8 and buttons are $1, and all the proceeds are going to the Adams Suffragette Centennial Celebration Committee. And I'm very sure that Election Day is going to be jam-packed with voters. So thank you, Virginia, for spreading the news.
Okay. If there's nothing else, All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? That is unanimous. It's a nice segue into a presentation by the town clerk. Town clerk has put in our packets the 2020 state election warrant for the November 3rd election. If you would like to talk a little bit about this, that would be
Sure.
great.
As Member Novak just mentioned, there's an election upon us very soon. So before you have the 2020 state election warrant that I'm hoping that you'll sign tonight. Again, the election is November 3rd. It's a Tuesday. Our polls will be open from 7 to 8. There is, on the ballot, is the president, senator for Congress, representative in Congress, counselor, senator in general court, representative in general court, and register of probate, and there are 2 questions on the ballot. I would suggest if you are coming out to vote on November 3rd, you should have all received, I'm bringing my prompts with me again tonight, your information and voter booklet. Please read up on the questions, so when you do come to vote, it will just go nice and smoothly. There will be red books there also, so you can stand off to the side and look up your questions if you need to, but I would suggest either giving our office a call if you don't have one and you want to look at it ahead of time. We're more than happy to try to accommodate you and get you one, or, we'll have them there at the poll. So please read up on your questions. Do you have any questions about the warrant?
No, I just, I don't see the warrant here for our signature. Do you have that with you? or-
I have one that I can leave with you for signature. Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
That's cart before the horse at this point, but.
Right, but if you do approve the warrant, which I hope you do tonight, so that we can get it posted, we can get the constable in and get it posted in a timely manner, that would be wonderful. Do you want to do that first before I move on and talk a little bit about early voting and all the other kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, we should probably do that. So what is the board's pleasure with regard to the election warrant that has just been presented by the town clerk?
I'll make a motion, the board approve the November 3rd, 2020 election warrant as provided.
I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by member Duval. Any discussion or maybe questions for the town clerk? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or an abstention? That is unanimous. So if the town clerk wants to give us an update on early voting and how people can,
Definitely.
when they can get their ballots, seems to be a popular question
The
these days.
all-important question is, when am I going to get my ballot in the mail if I asked for a ballot to be delivered to me through the mail? Well, you're in luck, because we're very fortunate that the ballots arrived the other day, yesterday, actually. So they arrived, and we have started to process them. Do have patience with my office. We have already processed all our absentees. We've processed precinct 1 and precinct 2 and precinct 3. The absentees, precinct 1 and 2, have gone to the post office already to be delivered to your mailboxes. Precinct 3 will be delivered promptly tomorrow morning. And hopefully, by the end of tomorrow, we will have precinct 4 and 5 out in the mail to you if you have already requested a mail-in ballot. So please have patience. They do have to go through the postal service. I again will say that our postal service has been very great to work with. So when you do get them, please, I can only stress, please fill it out if you already know who you want to vote for and what questions you want to answer yes and no to, and get it back to us in a timely manner if you already know, again, who you want to vote for and you don't want to sit on it. You have ways to get it back to us. You can either mail it through the mail. You do not have to put a postage on the envelope. You can just stick it in the mailbox and it will get to us. Or we have our drop box out in front of Town Hall. As you walk up the walkway, it is to the left. It's before you hit the set of stairs out in front of Town Hall. Now that the ballots have gone out, we will be checking that drop box more frequently. We typically check it 4 or 5 times a day. We will be checking it probably every hour to grab all those ballots out of there and get them to my office, and again, process them through the computer and get them put in the safe for safekeepings. And if you do decide you want to drop it off on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or this, if you happen to get it in the mail on Monday, I will be stopping in at Town Hall periodically throughout those 4 days that we're not here and checking the drop box and pulling those ballots in and putting them in the safe in my office. So feel comfortable that it's a safe place to put it. And certainly if you have questions, did we get your ballot? Feel free to call our office. We're more than happy to let you know if we did get it out of the drop box or even through the mail. Some of our voters have actually just put a little Post-it on the brown envelope and stuck it inside with, in their white envelope that they mail back to us and say, please give me a call when you receive my ballot. So that makes it nice for us too. The minute we receive it, we stamp it in, we pick up the phone, we call you and say, guess what, we got your ballot, and they're nice and happy. They know that we've got it and they don't have to worry about it. So again, drop box or put it in the mail as soon as you can. The quicker you get it to us, the quicker it is for us to be able to process it. But if you have decided that you don't want to do a mail-in ballot, you can come to Town Hall and early vote. Starting Saturday, October 17th, you can come into Town Hall and you can early vote in person, and you don't have to worry about the mail process. We will be here Saturday, October 17th from 12 to 4, Sunday, October 18th from 9 to 1. Monday through Thursday, the 19th through the 22nd, we will be here 9 to 4. Then again on Saturday, the 24th, from 12 to 4, Sunday, the 25th, from 9 to 1, and then that following week, the 26th through the 29th, from 9 to 4, where you can come in to Town Hall and early vote. Again, the only reason you can come into Town Hall unless you have an appointment is to just early vote. If you use the front door or the back door, we will have door attendants there that will let you in. You need to sign in, and then they will escort you down by the town clerk's office, where we'll have a booth set up, and we will give you your ballot. You can mark your ballot, we'll stamp it in, you'll put it in a ballot box, we'll be all good to go. So again, if you don't want to do the mail-in, feel free to come and early vote. And if you choose that you don't want to do that, we'll be at the polls for you on Saturday on November 3rd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So, and we are going to ask that you wear a mask. We will be sanitizing all the booths as quickly as we can after you use it, and we will be sanitizing markers that we hand to you. If you decide that you don't want to use one of our markers, I would ask that you just bring a black pen with you. You are more than welcome to bring your own pen if you don't want to use one of our markers. I would just ask that it be black. Blue is fine too. I would suggest do not bring a red pen. It probably won't feed through the machine. So again, bring your own pen if you want to. Otherwise, we will be sanitizing throughout the day, again, starting at 7 and ending at 8. I can't stress that enough. We will be there. We have a great plan in place. We're working with our DPW to make sure we have great traffic flow. I think everything will be wonderful. It'll be a great day, as long as it doesn't rain.
Great.
Let's hope for nice weather. So, do you have any questions about the upcoming November 3rd election?
I just have one quick question. There's going to be throngs of people. What are you going to do to try to keep the distancing and things to that effect? Because there'll be just so many people. I know it'd be difficult to do, but it's something that I think we need to think about.
Well, as a matter of fact, I had a great meeting with our DPW crew this morning, and we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about the traffic flow that I just mentioned by entering on the North Summers Street entrance, and then, parking on North Summer Street and go on your merry way, but parking and then going out the back way onto Crotto Street. So that would be a great traffic flow. We're hopeful if it's a nice day, we can have the garage doors open for a period of time because we want to have airflow, otherwise we'll just have the doors open. We talked a little bit about how we're going to set up the DPW garage to have enough spacing for voters that are coming in for each precinct to make sure we can keep that social distancing. But again, that's why we ask that you wear a mask. If you show up and you forgot your mask in your car, or you were out walking and you thought, oh, I forgot it was voting day, and you want to stop in, we will have masks on hand. for you to be able to wear, so feel free to ask anyone that's there. They'll get you a mask so you can put it on. That will help cut down on hopefully, the social distancing, but we would ask that you are respectful for the person in front of you. We will have up some cones like we've done in the past 2 elections where, keep your 6-foot distancing if at all possible. Same thing going through the booths. We will try to monitor how many people are within the booths. And we talked a little bit about possibly even putting a tent outside in case of inclement weather. So we're going to look at that as it gets a little bit closer and watch for the forecast. Today's forecast for November 3rd was going to be sunny and cloudy, high of 47. So, but as we all know, we live in the Berkshires and that can change dramatically. So, but our DPW director, Robert Tober, was wonderful, and he said he would actually check into seeing about getting a smaller size tent for out in front for people if we need to have a staging area in case it gets too busy within. I can say that we're mailing out over 1,800 ballots. That's a lot of ballots. And depending on how early voting goes, we have 2 weeks of early voting. It could, depending on how many people we get in here, if we get the same amount that we got 4 years ago, like 650, between 650 and 675, keep in mind if 1,800 people mail back their ballots and you get another 675 people that come to vote, minimum, we're talking roughly probably 2,000 people going through the, DPW garage, as opposed to in 2016, we had about 3,200 people that went through the DPW garage. That's a big difference. So we'll know a little bit more as it gets a little bit closer on how many people are actually choosing the mail-in or the early voting.
And one last question. If people are standing outside, this is hypothetical, it happens, of course, in major cities, but and 8 o'clock comes and they're outside, they get in the right to vote?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Every night, every election, before we close the polls, I do a lookout, always, make sure that there's no one parking, no one's, coming in, no one's whatever, so I always do that before I would even attempt to close the polls. So, yes, we would make sure that everybody is able to get into the DPW garage and cast their vote. That's what we're all about.
Okay, well, thank you. And then I have one more question. It's more apropos to the chief. Having stood down there many times, I think that the cones in the center of the road are more of an impediment than a plus, because it narrows the roadway. And people, they're opening their doors to get out, and it's a very dangerous situation down there. Now that nighttime comes a little bit quicker than it has during, of course, the summer months, I just think, this is just my personal thought, that the cones going along the roadway just narrows it. I've seen big trucks have a hard time, the school buses going by, and I don't know if it helps or it's a hindrance. I mean, I'd leave that up to what you would think best.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about it later if you'd like, but I do remember when I drove through there with the cones, it does shrink the roadway a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we put those out or if DPW put those out, but it certainly could be a conversation we could have and work through that before the election.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Do we have any other questions regarding the election?
Just add to that discussion that how does a vehicle know that voting is happening without, that's all we had for now. It could be a better idea. But those cones out in the road indicate to a driver of a vehicle that something is happening there. So something needs to be put there, be it cones or something better. But
Yeah, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, instead of maybe having them right out in front of the DPW garage, we could talk a little bit about having something before they hit there, like by Sparrow Street, and then further down on North Summer Street, because I think one of the reasons it makes it so narrow is that our voters are actually parking there too.
Right, right.
So maybe we can talk about something, like maybe different signage or
Signage
something.
or something, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, to kind of limit it, because as you said, it's getting dark, and we are gonna change, we're gonna fall back on October 31st, November 1st, so it's going to get even darker. And I did talk to DPW this morning too about that, to make sure that all the lights on the DPW garage are working. So that will help too, hopefully. It'll be lit up a little bit more, but maybe we can talk a little bit about that too, how to make it, you know,
Yeah.
lit up a little bit more, because it does get really dark down there.
Anything else? Okay.
Hopefully this is the last election we'll have to worry about it down there.
I thought you were gonna say, hopefully it's the last election we'll ever have to worry about.
No.
Did you see the smile on my face? It's been a long year.
Don't smile about that. Anything to smile about. Keep democracy.
No, we will have an election in May, and then we'll have our 3 elections in 2022, and again, it's not
Hopefully there will be a memorial.
Maybe.
At the DPW.
You never know where they'll be.
Madam Clerk and I, we did talk about that possibility. It was just too short of a runway time for us to get that building cleaned up.
We got
and
construction over there right
Yes.
now.
Yeah, and we had the
Parking.
construction over there, so we kind of just said, yeah, no, let's keep it. And plus, they're all important elections, but this is a really busy election, and changing it midstream and asking our voters to go to a totally different location, obviously, we can get the word out, we can do what we need to do, but again, I think it would probably work better if we're going to change a location of our voting on a different election than your general election this year.
So, come back. You have another item on the agenda. So on the agenda,
It's been a long day.
is a census update. We had a request to just hear kind of where the town ended up with the federal census.
Okay, well, the federal census, when I checked on Monday, we were at,
What's that?
what do you got?
Sorry.
We did approve the warrant.
Did you approve the warrant? Yeah, you guys approved the warrant.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thank you.
Okay. So the federal census, when I checked on Monday, we were at 70.1% that has responded to the federal census. We're kind of in line for Massachusetts, because that was at 69.1, and nationally at 66.7. Self-response, though, is still open to the end of the month. So if, again, I know I preach out there all the time, but if you haven't done your federal census, you can still go online and do your federal census. If you're having a difficult time doing that, feel free to call my office. We'll be more than happy to walk it through. Or, you know, if you're having a hard time and you don't have a computer at home, you can contact the Adams Library, because they do have public computers, very limited times, but they do have public computers so that you can get in and do that. I do know that they were out in the field knocking on houses and gathering more information. My office has worked with several of the field representatives for the census to try to help them navigate that also. We've had multiple requests, and we've tried to help them narrow down what happened to a particular address. You know, is it a vacant apartment? Is it a vacant house now, but they're still on the list? So we've been accommodating them as much as we possibly can. Unfortunately, as you know, COVID hit when this started. We had a great plan that we were going to institute, and hopefully our percentage probably would have been 80%, if not higher, closer even probably to 85 if we were able to implement what our plan was, but we just unfortunately weren't able to do that. It would have been nice if they had extended it further out, but then again, we don't know when this is going to end, so that makes it more difficult for all of us. And I think everybody's feeling the same way.
The 70%, does that include the online
Yes,
folks?
yes, yeah. You know, and I can only stress that people go online and do it. It affects everything, you know. It affects our senators, our representatives that we get. It affects your school system. So if you're a family at home and you haven't filled out your federal census, please do so. It affects funding for everything, across the board.
I think it took my wife longer to get onto the site.
Oh, really?
To actually do the file.
Yeah,
So
to do it.
It's real quick.
It is very quick. I had done it before I had even gotten my postcard, just to see how quick it was, even without my ID number. And it was done in, I did it in minutes, so and if you have your ID number, if you happen to have your postcard, I know they mailed out a couple of postcards, and then again, I know that they were going door to door, and we were working with some of the field people that were out in the field, so.
Other questions?
John, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll have a quick question. Does the town know from the last time who hasn't filled out the census? Okay, so we're never given that information.
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
And well, in some cases, it's hard to even, well, I guess it depends on what the number comes back at, because it's hard to predict. Again, 70% is 2 or 3 of them addresses that we still have in our system, although I can say that my office worked very closely trying to nail down all those addresses that are new addresses or addresses that shouldn't be there any longer, whether the house is no longer there because it was demolished or, apartment blocks. At one time, there was and it still happens in my census that I have, there's a house on Valley Street that comes out with like 100 units, and it's like, where'd this come from? That doesn't even make sense. So, we tried to narrow those down as much as we could. We went through our street listing, we went through our poll book when we got all the information, just trying to narrow that information down as best that we could. So some of that could be that too, just you don't know, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just one quick comment. I would hope that the federal government will take a close look once the census has been complete and notice that the returns aren't what they were, because it's beneficial to the federal government for a lower count, because they'll have to give out less monies and that type of thing. So I would hope that they will give that much consideration, because it does affect us immensely.
Exactly.
And
it does.
everyone in the country.
Correct.
Anything else on the census?
I think we're moving on to something more fun on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Excellent. Thanks for that segue, Haley. So a couple weeks ago, Chief Bacon came before the board, talked about a little bit about some ideas for Halloween this year and a way to do that safely. I believe that there's been some discussion with Town Administrator, Code Enforcement Officer Blaisdell, who's on the call, as well as I've invited the Chair of the Board of Health, Dr. Rhodes, to also join us to hear kind of where things are at and the plan that's before. So I will turn things over to Town Administrator first, if you want to introduce anything.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think tonight we just want to gain some consensus that what our plan is for Community Halloween 2020. As we've said before, to kind of set the context, everything that we do in 2020 seems to be somehow affected by the health pandemic. And as I've said in previous meetings, we want to do our best to at least try to offer some positivity for the town, particularly our younger residents. Halloween is definitely evolved over the years into quite the community event with a lot of participation. The Centers for Disease Control, CDC, at the federal level, as well as the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, has issued guidelines, and that's what they are. They are guidelines based on the health data, based on the nature of COVID-19 and what we know. You may have also seen that our governor, Governor Baker, has indicated that in terms of what a community wishes to do with the traditions of Halloween are up to the individual municipality. And as we always say, Halloween isn't legislated, but it just kind of organically happens, but at the same time, communities have evolved over the years where we've set ours. So that brings us to the question that we've had, which is how do we want Halloween to look here in the town of Adams? There's been some conference calls with other municipalities within the county over the last week, as well as some statewide conversation. Myself, Chief Bacon, Code Enforcement Officer Blaisdell, who's our health agent, spoke. We had a meeting last week. Mark reviewed with us what those guidelines are from the CDC and the DPH, and essentially in a distilled format, They've broken down different activities into 3 levels: low, moderate, and high. Your traditional trick-or-treating, door-to-door, unbridled is considered a high risk. And then depending upon how you use your PPE or what the nature of the events or gatherings are, they could be low or moderate. So what we've decided prior, even before that guidance came out, was that the town of Adams was going to bring trick-or-treat to our community within our individual precincts. That has been reviewed, that plan has been reviewed by the code enforcement officer, Mark, and is far less, it does not come anywhere near what the restrictive guidance is for CDC or DPH. In other words, we're a low-risk event by doing that. So with that being said, we feel it does meet the health standards. It will provide for an event that protects public safety and public health, still offers the event. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chief to kind of talk about what this is going to look like, what the logistics are. We've been getting some inquiries over the last few days, what's Halloween going to look like. So here it is, folks, here it comes.
I would say that the plan that I'm going to lay out before you is really a collaborative plan with Administrator Green. He's helped quite a bit on this, but really what the plan is to utilize the fire department, DPW, police department, and forest wardens in this project. And as Jay said, we're bringing Halloween to our residents. And there are 5 precincts in Adams, and we have those divided up and have divided up Adams town vehicles within those precincts. And those vehicles will be driving in those precincts and welcoming kids and adults who come out dressed in Halloween garb and delivering candy to them. Now, the people who will be delivering the candy will be wearing masks, they'll have gloves, their vehicles will be sanitized prior to going out, and so we're going to be doing this as safely as possible. To achieve this, we are asking for donations of candy. So if anyone out there would like to donate candy, you can bring it to the police department. We'll be the collection point. We ask that the candy is sealed, factory sealed, nothing reused, nothing homemade, so it's safe for the kids and adults who are participating that evening. We'll take all of that, and then we will distribute that to every vehicle that's being deployed within the precincts prior to that evening. I can tell you the town departments I've asked to help are energetic. They're excited about the event. They want to help. And like Jay said, it's bringing some sense of normalcy and happiness to our community that's really suffered quite a bit because of COVID. But also, I think it's a good community engagement event for all of our town employees. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. Now, if you cannot donate candy, the alternative would be to give a donation, a monetary donation. We would encourage you to give candy, but if you just absolutely can't and you feel that you want to donate, you can write a check to the town of Adams and bring that to the police station. We will collect that and bring it over here, and I assure you that all funds that are donated to this event will be used for candy.
I spoke with Treasurer Collector Rice today, and she's ready to go. She's ready to accept it. She's going to be custodian of those funds. So we have a great team effort to take care of every angle.
And I know one of the questions that has come up was how will the residents know that the vehicle is on their street? I have specifically requested that every vehicle that's participating have a PA system. And we will be playing Halloween music as we drive down the street. So keep your windows open a little bit so you can hear the vehicles driving down your street, but that's really how we're going to notify people that we're there. And I don't anticipate just doing one swath down a street. We'll have enough personnel where we'll be able to hit every street maybe multiple times. So bear with us if you don't see us right away at the starting point, but we will get there.
We've had some really, as you can see from the last 6 months, we started with our wave parades. We've had tremendous positive feedback on many different levels about what that's meant to the community for those wave parades. We saw last night National Night Out, again, thanks to the chief and the members of the Adams Police Department for organizing that. We had the Copsicle truck in town, and that's a very similar operation.
That was our dry run. That showed us how we need to do it, where the kids are, the streets that are going to be more populated than others. So that last night was very helpful with planning the event.
Questions for Chief, Town Administrator, or Code Enforcement Officer Blaisdell?
Hours 5:30 to 7 is the window of time that we...
Yeah, and I would anticipate with as many vehicles we will have in those precincts, I'm pretty sure we can knock this out in an hour, which is kind of my goal, because we learned last night at 6:45, it's dark. And we would like to try to prevent people from running into the streets to the vehicles that are delivering the candy. So we're going to try to knock this out as quickly as possible.
Questions from the board?
Well,
Member Novak?
once again, we've always, as I think John alluded to in a previous meeting, that we've always been there for our children in many different ways. And I just want to say that I've already gone out, I've got donations from Walmart, the Adams Market, the mobile station, Adams Community Bank. I haven't heard back from Big Y or Target, but I'm out there doing what I can to help out.
Thank you.
So I'll continue to do my best to try to get donations, and once again, I'll either forward them to you or to Jay.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Member Blanchard or Member Duval?
No, so this is it, there is officially no door-to-door, correct?
We are strongly discouraging that activity consistent with the CDC and DPH guidelines.
And providing a safer alternative.
Right. And I think it's a great idea, a great plan. Not everybody follows the rules. So there will be some people out there. I just ask, please do not, if the porch light's not on, don't go there. You don't know why they're not handing out. So please avoid those houses.
Right, to get into a little bit more detail, one of the reasons why we're doing this is you think about it from both sides of the street, and pardon the pun. You have households, we do have an older demographic here, and we have folks that may feel inclined that they want to participate, they want to put that porch light on, and they want to do that. That does expose that household to the transmission. It becomes a vector for the potential transmission. Likewise, you have a younger group or anyone who's masked up going door to door now, and could inadvertently now introduce that into those households, again, as a vector. It becomes a vector. That's transmission. That is the method of transmission. That's what we're trying to eliminate. That's why we wear masks. That's why we avoid gatherings. So this is that opportunity, the one-on-one contact between a person who's at the curb or will approach the vehicle with one person. We're going to be masked, so you can broach the 6-foot distance, and the interaction time will be far less than what the CDC and the DPH guidelines are. That's the safest route for us to do that. And Rick, you're absolutely right. And these are what other municipalities, the issues that we've all been as municipal managers and leaders over the last week have been dealing with, is you can't really discourage the behavior. At the end of the day, if somebody feels comfortable going next door to their neighbor, or their neighbor invites them up, hey, come over, we want to see your costumes, that's their choice. That is their choice. But in terms of a town-wide, turn your lights on between 5:30 and 7 and hit it, no, not this year. We're just discouraging that behavior for the greater public good and public safety. And we're going to do our best to take a model that has worked in Chief's previous communities and that we know has been received well with our wave parades. I think Officer Dabrowski today, we had coffee with a cop today at Council on Aging. I think Officer Dabrowski said that since we reinstituted it sometime April or early May, we've had over 80 of those wave parades, and each one has been represented by each department in this town and community. And I think it's important, at least for now, for me to take a moment, thank all the town staff that are volunteering their time for this, particularly Nick, who arranges it all. Mark and I and the chief met. We had a pretty good conversation about it. I appreciate Dr. Rhodes' participation, his endorsement from the Board of Health on it, if that's what he wishes to do. So I think this is a good plan forward. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I know myself and my wife will be up here that night participating. Although she's disappointed that Coomer will not be on duty that night, we'll make up for it.
81 wave parades. There was
81.
There was one at 6 o'clock today on Grant Street. But with that said, our plan is to have 2 people in the cars, the vehicles, to service both sides of the road. So if anybody would like to, as Jay said, they're going to be participating. If anybody else would like to participate, let me know, and I can assign you to a car, or if you have a specific request, we can make that happen.
We have dump trucks, we have fire trucks, and I also should thank, as most people know, Adams Fire Department is a separate government entity. It is our fire district. I'd like to thank Chief Pansecki and the members of the alerts. After that first announcement that we were thinking about this, Chief Pansecki reached out immediately and said, Adams Fire is in, what can we do? So we'd like to thank them as well for reaching out.
They have committed at least 4 apparatus.
Member Duval, do you have any questions, comments?
Just to add, what Jay had to say, and the reason I support this is that we do have an elderly community, and they would want to give out candy, as they always have, but during this pandemic, it's just something we cannot do. Just, Chief, quickly, so the vehicle will be driving up the street, kids will be flying out the door, coming down the lawn, and then they'll be handed some candy from the vehicle, by someone in the vehicle.
Either that, or we'll stop the car and go to them.
Okay.
Depending upon the street. Now, there's some streets that people can come out and safely.
Right.
Others, like Summer Street, we'll have to strategize on that approach. But either one, I think, would be acceptable.
Okay. And the more candies, the more we can give out, right? The more
Yes,
donations, and thank you, Joe, for doing what you do. But, candy is good.
I would like to see more candy than not enough. That's really my only fear, so that's my appeal to the community. If you would like to help us achieve our goal that all kids get candy, please, please donate.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Rhodes, I know that you are on the call. I wanted to just give you an opportunity to ask any questions or comments.
Thank you. I really want to commend Chief Fagan and the rest of the administration for coming up with this great alternative, because obviously we have no intention of prohibiting trick-or-treating, but the best alternative is to have a great substitute, and this is a super substitute. I just have basically one question about if you're accepting individual donations of candy, is there a deadline before, like a week before Halloween, that you will stop?
Our deadline would be October 31st at 5:00 p.m. We will take it up till the end. So there's no deadline, just preferably we'd like to have it a week before. That way we can get it all organized and distributed to the proper vehicles and departments. But we'll accept all the way up to the time we go out.
Okay, great. And so our Board of Health meeting next week, we will take a look at this and would like to endorse it from the Board of Health standpoint. And so thank you for all the effort you put in.
Thank you.
We would like to add, we'll be asking the board to add the other recommendations just to avoid the large indoor gatherings. Of course, the house trick-or-treating, private individuals handing out candy, and something that hasn't been mentioned yet is really trying to avoid traveling to other municipalities, because we do appreciate that other municipalities have set up their own protocols, and would not like to kind of barge in or interfere with how they're trying to conduct a safe Halloween. So with that, again, thank you very much. I'm impressed and very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rhodes. That was good input about the neighboring municipalities. So I appreciate that reminder. Anything else on Halloween? Okay. I guess get your costumes ready.
Yeah,
And get some candy over to the chief.
that's right.
Not too early, because I don't want you to eat it all. I'm just teasing you. I got you.
Okay. What do you want to say?
I got him off guard. I like it. That was good.
He's hooked on Angelina's, so.
Oh.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, we usually vote on the night, the hours, and I imagine we should vote on the new process for this year.
I think it's an endorsement of the Halloween 2020 plan, if you would like to make that.
I'll make that motion to endorse the 2020 Halloween plan that's been put forward, along with that it's going to be held on October 31st, between the hours of 5:30 and 7 o'clock.
Okay. I have a motion by Member Duval.
Second.
Second by Member Blanchard. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is unanimous. That brings us to department reports. We will start with the town administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tonight, as everybody may know, particularly Dr. Rhodes, who's out without power, we were hit with a sudden storm this evening. Most of the damage was concentrated in the east side of town, Prado Street area, Summer Street area, and then upwards towards the East Road area. The DPW was mobilized and slowly geared up over the course of the evening, and I'd really like to thank the forest wardens. I was at Prado Street between 5 and 5:30, and they just descended from everywhere. They were right on the spot. So I'd like to thank Chief Kleiner, Emergency Management Director Kleiner, and all the ladies and gentlemen that were out there from the forest wardens. There were neighbors that were helping to start clear trees, and were really able to get in there even before our DPW guys were able to mobilize and get equipment. So we were able to do that. Officer Baker, one of our members of APD who was on duty, he was able to report earlier that all of the downed wires that we had were protected by town staff in order to prevent electrocution. I was in touch with our Emergency Operations Center, which is still in standby status in northern Berkshire. There were no injuries reported region-wide, but there were localized issues like we had both in North Adams and in Cheshire. No regional assets were asked to respond, and the National Weather Service is going to confirm through Berkshire Sheriff's Control as to whether or not this was a microburst. So as of right now, most of our roadways should be reopened, and the DPW will continue tomorrow with cleanup in the public spaces. So that's our report on this evening's storm. Some project reports for everyone this evening. I'm pleased to report that Mass DOT has reported that our Ashewiltuck Bike Trail will reopen this Friday for Columbus Day weekend. Although it probably feels like it's been open based on the amount of traffic that I've seen on it. Mass DOT is officially reopening that this Friday, so that work should be completed. Commercial Street, as everybody knows, is now underway. You'll see in the morning and throughout the day periodic lane closures. They're doing some undersurface work, getting ready to go for further construction, so just please be advised and expect some delays there. We're doing our best to be in touch with the project managers from Mass DOT. We're blasting out their information on our Facebook page, as well as the town clerk who manages our great webpage. We have a tab right on that homepage, construction news or updates. Go right on there, and that'll be the most recent news that we can have. Just expect delays. It's the best advice I can give everybody right now, but that work has commenced. I have some great information regarding our Russell Field project. As Member Novak mentioned a couple meetings ago about the light portion of that project, for everyone who's aware, we were trying to do our best to do a comprehensive project on that field. That would be field, grounds, field house, and lights. We were not able to do the field house due to cost. We were able to do most of the fields, the tennis court, etc., but the lights were still a question. As of tonight, the Community Development Department reports that we are able to run new conduit and new wires through the conduit up to the top of the poles, and we are only $5,000 short of being able to basically refurbish the existing lights that are there. So almost all the infrastructure will be new with the exception of lights. We just don't know how to make up that difference of $5,000. We don't have it budgeted. It's not anything we have. So at some point, I'll be brainstorming with staff to figure out how to close that gap, but we're close. We're very close. I'm thinking it might be a plea to our athletic groups that utilize the field to maybe help us out with some fundraising. So we'll continue to look at that, but that's some good news on the Russell Field project. Town Common, I'm pleased to report, I don't want to steal Member Novak's thunder if he was going to report out on it, but I'm pleased to report that Susan B. Anthony has come home to Adams. We had a successful installation last week. Member Novak, myself, Chief Bacon, we were out there, Ms. Ferguson from the Community Development Department. Our plan with that is to allow the contractor to complete the installation of the ground pavers and the back wall that will abut the sidewalk and the statue of Susan, so that it's aesthetically pleasing. And if weather permits, and if that work can be completed, then I'll come to the board and seek your input as to whether or not we would like to have some type of a dedication ceremony before the weather turns. So that's where we are with the town common project. Valley Street drainage project continues. They're in the thick of that now as we go. The last item, I'd just like to remind everybody, I don't know if Dr. Rhodes is still on, or Mark is certainly still on, and he can jump in if I misspeak. So far, the resurgence of COVID-19 in Adams has been minimal. We've had about 5 new cases, I want to say, over the last 30 days, give or take. We're still in the gray, which is good. That means that COVID-19 is not prevalent in our community in strong numbers, but that can always turn. So I just wanted to take a moment, putting on my old Board of Health hat, and just remind everybody, best tools: socially distance, wash your hands, and please wear a mask and avoid public gatherings where you can. Please help us to keep us in the gray, or at best in the green, because as you can see, now that the DPH has that data, that is what allows a community to advance further and open up and release restrictions a little bit further. We've been doing really well. Superintendent Dean is in touch with the Board of Health through Code Enforcement Officer Blaisdell. We're in good shape. Let's stay that way. Let's work together to stay that way. I can't plead enough with everybody. Thank everybody for their cooperation. But having the chance to look back over the last week or two as to what we went through in March and April, boy, I don't know about anybody else, but I sure don't want to go through it again. So I just wanted to take that opportunity tonight to remind everybody that our numbers are good, but they're good because of what everybody is doing. I'm over at the grind frequently for lunch, and I haven't seen anyone in violation of any of these social health requests that are being made. So thanks everybody for that. That's all I have for this evening.
Okay. Any questions for the town administrator about his report?
Yeah, Jay, thank you for that advice. It's very sound advice, because once again, it just takes a vector and people spreading it, and it becomes something that we don't really want.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one question on the Valley Street work. It appears to me, I don't remember how much money we were given to do that project, but the amount of work I see there and the money I think we've got, is that going to be enough to cover everything? Because they're spending a lot of time, a lot of equipment, a lot of
Yes.
people, a lot of piping, so
Yes.
I'm wondering.
I'll have to ask community development to see how it's going. The only issues so far have been the required number of test pits were exceeded from what was contractually allowed for. So say we are contracted for 4, we needed a total of 8. That's why you saw for a period of time DPW deployed, because we were doing them in order not to have to pay the contractor to do it. That was simply a result of it being an older community,
Right.
and not having as-built plans, blueprints, to be able to see where our stormwater was. That's been resolved. DPW has documented that. So that was the only not overrun, but excess that we had that I was aware of. It does look that way because it's substantial work. I was out there a couple of Fridays ago, and the size of the culverts
Right,
that
I
are
was
being
gonna
put
say
in.
that, yeah.
If this doesn't take care of those drainage problems in the hills, in the presidential area, I don't know what will.
No.
But they're working diligently on it. But I can certainly ask community development. We'll get a report and take a look. Some of our projects, I've been concerned, that's why Russell I'm kind of happy with, because I just feel like we were dealing a bad deck. We got into these projects, and they've all been over a little bit, and thanks to Donna and Becky's staff and Mary, we've been able to squeeze every dime out of the cushions that we were able to. But just like with this Russell Field issue, we're so close, but with a late budget being put into place, not knowing what next year's fiscal year will look like, we're being a little restrictive in how we are spending money. So we'll take a look at that, but those are the only overruns so far that I've noticed.
Right.
And most of that funding, Joe, is the bond money.
Yeah,
We
right.
did get a partial grant on it, but the majority of that is our storm damage rehab money.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of good things, a lot of good projects going on. It's going to make a difference in this community.
It absolutely will, and we're doing our best with it. I say I wish we could take on more. With Donna's retirement, we're trying not to lose any steam. I don't think we will. We've had a lot on our plate. It makes it difficult to manage. We're all over the place with it, but we've got a good team and everyone's pitching in. And we'll get into a good ebb and flow, I think, next fiscal year, and try not to miss a beat. In fact, I'm working on 2 grants right now, along with community development, to keep us going.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. We'll move on to the town council's report.
Thank you. Since my last report on September 16, I worked on the following. I responded to a request for advice from the Board of Health. I responded to a private citizen's request for public records. I filed a formal response to a complaint for violation of the open meeting law. I reviewed an application for a liquor license transfer. I filed a motion to dismiss a complaint for judicial review. I attended the Board of Health hearing on September 30. I participated in a meeting in preparation for a hearing before the district court concerning the dangerous dog matter that had previously come before this board. And I reviewed and responded to a private citizen's boundary line complaint.
Any questions for town council? Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
You're welcome.
Nice to have you in the room.
Nice to be here.
So that brings us to subcommittee and liaison reports. I'll be mindful, Peter, I see the camera. So I have 2 quick items. First, I just wanted to thank Member Duval. I got a notification that Member Duval will be serving as an alternate representative to the MPO. That's a position that I believe Williamstown Selectmen Andy Hoagland and yourself have switched on and off. So Andy's going to serve as the representative and you'll be serving as the alternate. Is that
Right, every
correct?
2 years, it's up for election, and we're the only 2 that call in or show up. So we switch positions every 2 years.
So I appreciate that your continued work with the MPO.
Member Duval brings home the bacon from the MPO.
Let's try as hard as I can.
Not the one that's in the room.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even pick up on that.
I'm here all night, folks. The other item, Member Blanchard and myself met as members of the licensing committee last week. We reviewed the manager application that was before us. There's a couple of other applications that'll be coming before the board. One is a transfer of an all-alcohol license for what was known as the Polish National Alliance at 13 Victory Street to what is now going to be the Victory Lounge. So that paperwork has been reviewed, submitted, and it is on I think it's gone off to town council, but this board will probably see that on October 21st, if all goes well with that paperwork. There is also, I think, one more piece of business that we need to do with the O'Geary's package store transfer. So we're just getting some more clarification on that paperwork, but that might come before this board on October 21st as well. And we looked at the renewal process for the 2021 licenses and started some discussion about those fees and might bring forward a recommendation to this full board. We also reviewed a BYOB policy to add to our existing licensing policy that we have. So we've sent it off to, or are sending it off to town council, to Chief Bacon, and a few other entities to just take a look at it and make sure that that's all well and good. And if so, then that will come before this full board probably next month. So that's, I think, all of the things that we talked about, and just a heads up as to what will be coming before the full board. anything you'd add, Member Blanchard? Okay,
Nothing to add?
okay. With that, that's all I have for subcommittee reports. Member Duval.
Really not a subcommittee, but I did, I had a day off and I asked Jay if he'd take me around to all the projects and discuss the status of each one. And we did walk Corrado Street, looks great, sidewalks look great. They did make some effort to make sure that everyone's driveways or walkways to the sidewalks were fixed in a way that the water would run off those areas. There are a couple of things that need to be fixed before we sign off on that grant completion.
Some of our brand-new signage was taken out tonight, too, by these trees.
Oh, really?
Of course, the storm has to hit our brand-new neighborhood roadway.
And just, I'll do it quickly, we visited Valley Street, yes, and we were told that there's some tunnels there with, underground tunnels with arches with tiles on them. You know, that's how old it is underneath that area of town. Over on Russell Field, looks great. One thing, just to mention that when it's done, that no vehicles allowed on that field unless it's emergency vehicles. I just want to make sure, because before it was a little different process, but just make sure no vehicles are allowed on that.
I drove by today, the turf looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't get close to it, but from a distance, boy, did that grass fill in nicely. So absolutely, we want no vehicles on that other than proper playing footwear on there.
Right, and the community can use that field, it's not fenced in, it's open, so if some family wants to go down and use the field during the day, they can, right?
It's still under construction right now.
Right, when it's
Oh,
completed.
absolutely.
Yeah, so, which is good, so that's it, I don't want to take up too much time.
Thank you. Member Blanchard, anything for subcommittee?
Well, Member Duval and I just had one tonight, public safety. Nothing really to report out at this time. He's getting updates and looking to the future.
We did discuss the overtime budgets, had a good discussion about that, talking about how we're going to get through the next budget sessions, and the budget subcommittee will be working with the town administrator and the chief on that situation, but it has been, as has been mentioned in this meeting, it's been high, the overtime budget, so we're gonna work on ways to reduce that, so work together with the police department and with the town administrator.
Great. Okay. Anything else, Member Blanchard?
That's it.
Okay. Member Novak,
Yeah,
subcommittee?
first of all, I'd like to thank John, and I think you said that you had it about looking into that overtime. I think it's something that really needs to be done both on the police department and the DPW. And that can help us a long way financially. I attended the Parks Commission meeting, and as Jay had mentioned, there was talk about the lighting, and the members were happy to hear that the conduit's going to be underground and extended, and then it's just a matter of trying to get money for the lighting portion of it. Also, there was some talk about youth football. They haven't brought in their application for field use, but it's most likely going to come. It's going to be 7-on-7. It's going to be almost like tag football, pull the tag and passing. So that would be for ages starting at 6th grade going up to, I'm not sure what age I asked. They thought perhaps up to maybe 9th grade or so like that, I don't know. And there was another concern that Robert Tolbert brought up, our DPW commissioner, that along the third base line, the sand that had been put down for the baseline accumulated water after the heavy rain. And historically, that's been a problem at that field along the left field line because of the spring that emanates from there. And I don't know if it will ever be a dry area, but they're going to work on getting a different type of sand mix to try to rectify that problem. So that's basically was the gist of the meeting.
Camera is in your direction, so Joe, we'll start with announcements and go to the order with you.
Okay, I just like to say something, that this is a personal look into something. I was happy at the town meeting that things went the way they did. I think everything that was voted on is certainly a positive for this community. But when I sat in my seat as an elected official, it seemed like that town meeting was choreographed like a Shakespeare play. I mean, I could tell what was going to happen as the meeting went along. It just, I don't know, it kind of struck me the wrong way. It just seemed like there was so much time put in before it, which is a good thing, but as it went through, it just seemed like, I don't know, everything was like put in pieces, like you're building a log cabin or something. It didn't sit well with me, because I think the people of Adams, our town meeting members, they're smart people, and it just seemed like they were being preached to, and I don't know, if you can feel like the way I did, and because I had no conversations prior to this town meeting, but early on it just seemed to me that, boy, this thing was put together like a Hollywood play, and so that's just what my thinking is. It's no discredit to anybody. The things passed well, but I think we have to give the town meeting members more credit, and because I think the things that would have passed. And I'd like to say too that John Cowley, I'm far away from John Cowley politically. I'm far away from John Cowley, the way we think about certain issues, but I'm with John Cowley a little bit when it comes to finances. And I learned a few things from John that I wasn't aware of on his 40R, that One Berkshire is overseeing this, was part of overseeing the project. I never knew anything like that. I never knew about that bonding, that abutters would have to put in bond money so that they can be heard. So things like that. John's a very smart man. And it's tough when you're like an underdog. When John goes up there and speaks to people, it's almost like, you know, he's the skunk in the room. And people say, oh, sit down, do this, do that. But John Cowley's a very smart man, and I felt a little sorry for him, personally. I really did, because he was getting cut off. And, you know, I look at a meeting, I think of the picture of Norman Rockwell of the New England Town Hall, where people are standing up and, you know, passing on information, you know, and in a staunch way if they believe strongly in something. And I just felt bad about that. And one other thing I'd have to say I didn't like is that it was announced that the blankets were given by General Dynamics and One Berkshire. I mean, that seemed to me a little bit tacky. And I just want to say that in an outward way. Once again, I'm glad that things went the way they did, because what the town meeting members voted can only be a plus for this community going forward.
I would like to just address a couple of items
Okay.
that were incorrect from what you just stated.
Yes, please. Please do.
As an employee of One Berkshire, it's disappointing that I've had to hear now twice that people believe that One Berkshire has had a hand in 40R. Now, One Berkshire's role back in August, or actually I think it was September, was to come in and speak. It was actually the president and CEO of One Berkshire was asked to speak about economic development and the impact that a tool like 40R could be for the town of Adams. His title was given, his role was given, and he's also the former town administrator. All of that was very transparent in that room. It's a recorded meeting, and anyone can go back and watch it. We also, as a town, and this was prior to my employment to One Berkshire, I would just like to state that I did not start working for them until November. The economic development specialist for One Berkshire was also asked to be in the room to talk about how this could be an economic development tool and answer any questions about economic development. In no way, shape, or form is One Berkshire controlling 40R or controlling that conversation in the Berkshires or in the state. They are, in fact, an organization that does bring some speakers into the area, and they do have some connections with the state. This is a state program. It is not a One Berkshire program. So I just want to make that clear, because it has now been stated that One Berkshire is like controlling 40R, and that is absolutely incorrect. As for the blankets, at the workshop prior to this, we had 20 or so town meeting members who attended. It got very cold. They asked if there was anything that could be done. I indicated that I had 30 blankets left over from an event that I organized. And I contacted the donor, who was General Dynamics, because their logo was on it, and I asked if it would be okay if I could distribute them at town meeting. I got the okay from them because it had their logo on it. I also asked my employer, One Berkshire, if there was anything else that was going to be done with these blankets. They indicated that there would not be. And I said, can I then bring them and just have them available? It was the moderator's choice to want to give credit. I didn't believe that credit needed to be had. They were just in storage, and I wanted to get them out. The leftover blankets have now been given to a shelter so that they won't be at another event. I wanted to just clear those things up.
Okay, then.
I don't want to further deliberate on that.
No, it's not deliberating on those points, but I would like to know as a selectman, how many meetings that you had planning this town meeting? Because I won't mention name, but when 40R came, it was the first time that I ever seen it held by someone that was in the top seat of the Finance Committee, and I won't mention name. I've never seen that before in all the meetings I've ever went to.
To answer your question, I attended several meetings about town meeting regarding the logistics.
Okay.
I attended meetings about the logistics for the workshop with regard to, that was held 3 days prior to town meeting. I spent an awful lot of time working on the logistics.
Okay.
Just
logistics.
And the content for the workshop.
Okay, very good. And my last question.
And I'm sorry, but if you wanted to
No, this isn't.
it's 40, if you wanted to talk about the 40R, I did attend all of the 40R public hearings that were held by the planning board, the workshop, the information sessions that were open to the public. I attended all of those as well.
Okay.
And I answered several questions of residents who had questions about 40R. I went to people's homes at their request if they had questions, and I've been doing that since last August. Anytime somebody has asked me a question about 40R, I have answered it truthfully with the information that I've had, and I have provided them with the information that was given to the planning board as well.
Very well. Then on a different subject, I was wondering, today I saw that the Personnel Subcommittee was reviewing the chief. And I'm wondering, I've asked this so many times, Madam Chairman, when is Jay Green going to get a review? What is the holdup?
Certainly, I would love to answer that question for you.
Okay, please do.
So, with the time of the review would have been April. We were in the middle of a pandemic. I stated that in May, that I knew that this was something that needed to be done. It's on the back burner because of a pandemic. I was hopeful that by the end of the summer, I would be able to get that done. I asked other communities for their evaluations. I received those. I contacted MMA to get a copy of their evaluation as well. I have spent a number of hours working on this, using the goals that were set last summer by this board to make sure that the review would be fair and equitable. I have personally handled the technology for nearly 60 town meetings for the town of Adams, the Zoom and everything else, which has consumed an awful lot of my time. Because to get to this point, to have this meeting, it is several hours before and several hours after. So I didn't have a lot of capacity to necessarily do my full-time job and then to run all of these meetings and still do a good job with a tool that I think would be helpful to evaluate our town administrator. So we didn't have meetings last week. Guess what? I got to put together that tool. I have sent it off to a few people to have it, external folks, the same people that sent me evaluations, and asked them to proof it and make sure that it was a fair tool to evaluate the town administrator. So it is my hope that I can get some information to you maybe next week or the week after, once it has been reviewed by a few other people that I feel comfortable looking at it and making sure that it's been proofed, and I will get that out. I have apologized to the town administrator that has taken me this long to get to this point, but there's just only so much I can do. Now, it would have been nice if you had asked if you could have helped or offered to help, but instead you've continued to come to these meetings and continue to tell me what I'm not doing. So I appreciate that, but we are on target as best as I can. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Madam Chair, could I ask for an update on the Personnel Subcommittee today? Why the review of the chief?
The Personnel Subcommittee did not meet today. The Public Safety Committee met today, and I don't serve on
that
that.
was on the agenda, it was posted at 5:30 that the...
A Public Safety Committee.
No,
I
it was
don't serve on
Personnel
it.
Subcommittee, it said. Well, that's what it said on the homepage.
It is a Public Safety Committee, and the members of the Public Safety Committee gave their update during the committee reports.
Okay, very good, and I take different deference to what you just said about why I don't come in and do some of the work. I do a lot of work, Christine, for this community.
I just asked that maybe you could have offered to assist.
Why didn't you ask me? Why didn't you ask me? And that's it. I'm not going to get any further into it.
Great. Member Blanchard, do you have anything for announcements and good of the order?
I have nothing.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I do have 3 items. One, for those at home who are watching, just a reminder, if you are having trouble with the sound, to please call Spectrum Customer Service. The phone number is 833-780-1880. That number again is 833-780-1880. It was a reminder that was given to me this morning at the Coffee with a Cop event, which I appreciated being part of, and thank the chief for inviting all of the members of the board to that event. But there was a resident there who asked me if I could repeat that phone number a couple of times this evening, so I'm happy to have done so. The item of town meeting was brought up. I wanted to just thank all of those who organized that event. I know that the town clerk spent an awful lot of time on the logistics, as well as the town moderator, DPW director, building commissioner Garner, the town administrator, and code enforcement to make sure that everything was good. But I also wanted to thank all of you for your work on the workshop prior to. I think that helped calm any fears that there might be about gathering and so forth. So I thought that all of that went very well, and I also appreciated the work of Encore Audio and Classical Tents to make sure it was a comfortable space and that we were able to hear outdoors. So thank you to all of them for that.
Chuck Felix?
Oh, right, and I can't forget Chuck, who was there every step of the way, every time we needed to get in and see the space, and who made sure that the restrooms, lights, and so forth were available to us for both the workshop and town meeting. But I also wanted to just thank the town meeting members for showing up, because that's a huge part of it. And they showed up for the workshop, which was a very cold night, and luckily it wasn't as cold for actual town meeting, but all went well with that. I don't have anything else, so with that, I will just mention, I don't believe that we'll have a workshop or a meeting next week, so I am looking to have a meeting on Wednesday, October 21st at 7 p.m. And there are a number of things here for signature, so with that, I will ask for an adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.